All right, hello everybody. Just a quick apology for the quality of the podcasts that have come out as of late. Um, I think I ran into some kind of technical issue with the storage. I don't know though. But I'm working on it. I'm putting out the best quality of these that I can manage. So hopefully you're able to grit through them a little bit. This episode with Dan Umthun. Probably a little crackly, and then the next episode with Sinister Carney might also be a little bit crackly, but then we'll get on to Dave Kilbride. It's very clear. No crackles whatsoever. I'm still learning about this shit, so I'm just, it's a good thing I'm getting this out of the way early, so that way once it gets into regular shit, then that way I know I have a much better chance of things being on the up and up. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there. Those who did. Obviously, if you just skip a few episodes, I'm not gonna be too mad at you. But don't forget about us entirely. We will miss you, and it will hurt deep inside. No, but for real though, that was dumb. I just wanted to put that out there that it was not. That it's I'm the only one doing it, and so I'm figuring it out as I go. But hey, I'm not the only one. But Dan Umthun is a great dude. Obviously we get into everything he's got going on in the podcast, but just check it out again. That's kind of what the deal is so far. But that's who's next. We got Dan Umthun today. We'll have Sinister Carney next week, and then Dave Kilbride the week after that. And I hope you guys are enjoying the show for what it is anyway. And we'll see you out there. Thank you very much.
Fantasy in your head about getting out of the life and setting the corporate world on its ear. The fuck you gonna do except hustle?
I was forged from iron and filled with the soul of a tyrant giant, hiding deep inside. I'm riding high, got lost the light. It's finding time to snort a line. I smoke the pine, I press rewind. Cause I'ma take them back to when tragedy's all that happened. Used to act like nothing mattered. Ruthless savage, real sporadic. Snatching rabbits, cocaine addict. I survived, the shit was magic. Plus my bitch just wasn't shit. Ho was out here taking dick from every
I normally just kind of start cold. So that way I can kind of make sure everything's running, and then we just get into it.
Okay.
But yeah, man. So...
Well, what's happening?
So, what the podcast is I want to have the talent that's like doing shit and working, and whether it be musicians or comedians or anything, and then give like a bit of an interview where people who see them all the time can actually like kind of listen to them and get to know them, and then be more connected with them, and then feel more like they can check out their shit and
Stuff that's coming from the underground.
yeah, exactly.
I'm certainly coming.
it's
all over the place.
it's
Straight from the underground.
it's honestly uncontrollable. He's seen a doctor, but it's something he said he didn't want to get into while we were on the podcast.
I feel like I'm dehydrating myself. Yeah.
Yes. He's drinking water constantly to try to replace it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know we weren't going to touch it, but I appreciate you respecting my boundaries like that.
You're welcome.
So wonderful.
Yeah. No, it's that's a part of my practice in doing this.
It's just respecting. I started a podcast boundaries. To respect people's boundaries.
Exactly. That was rule number one.
We gotta respect boundaries, then ask the hard questions.
I gotta. It's kind of like testing boundaries. If I seem to go a little risky, risque.
Sorry, no, not a question you want to answer. Okay,
Exactly.
That would be a journalist that respects boundaries would be a very hard journalist to actually deal with.
Right. Yeah. Most of it was just be like they responded no, and I just said okay. Well,
okay.
And then that's the end of the article. It's like this long. All right, so here on They Came From the Underground, we have one of the hosts of the Underground Comedy Open Mic at Lefty's Live Music, and shout out to Ann Matthew and Lefty's Live Music for letting us record this here in the inside on the stage, and to such a lively audience. No, I'm just kidding. No, this is
all zero
intended.
People.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is intended. One day I think it'd be fun to do a live show, and then also host of the Doomcast.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yes, exactly, and that is a webcast. You do a lot of video with that one.
Yes,
which is really ideal. You've checked out all things comic book and superhero related. It seems to be a very strong theme of it, I would say.
Yeah, kind of moving into anime stuff too.
Right on.
But
Yeah, definitely hit all your markets. Yeah, this is Dan Umthun. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm very well. I'm doing incredibly well.
Good, man. That's really good to hear. Yeah, you were in Hawaii recently. I would certainly be quite excited about that.
Yeah, it was
a lot of fun. It sounds like it was a lot of fun. But thanks for coming back.
Yeah, you're well. I live here. I can't. I could have been homeless there.
Sure,
which would have been very easy because there's.
I mean, if you're gonna be homeless somewhere.
Well, there's quite a few of them. It's astonishing.
You can make friends.
Yeah, if you're in like Lahaina, Maui, you automatically are just part of a group of people that hang out and smoke weed in public bathrooms and walk around in a tricorn hat and a Green Day Dookie T-shirt and just
Green
ask
Day
people,
reaches everywhere,
dude. They ask people just very uncomfortable questions.
Really?
They don't. It's crazy. Like at least like bums in like Chicago and New York will just be generous enough to be like, excuse me, sir, excuse me. No such friendliness in Hawaii. It's just they come right up to you and they're just like, I'm thirsty. Do you want to go grab a drink?
Yeah,
and hang out? Like I was like, with you, a person that I don't know who is clearly homeless? No, I don't, because I know that the deal here that you're implying is that I pay for a drink for you, and I'm not that chill.
No, you've done nothing to earn a drink from me, sir.
Did I? Yeah, exactly. Did I look very chill to you that I was just gonna buy you a drink?
Is it? Yeah, and that makes me wonder does that work? Just going up to a tourist, like to exactly. Yeah, it had to have at least once for him to keep doing it,
right.
Or like maybe that was his first try. You never know.
Well, yeah, this is like
literally.
I wonder if these people will do it, and he just
goes, every tourist he runs into just like.
Guess it doesn't work.
You know, man, I got some shit to talk about. You want to get a drink?
He wasn't even like that. Like, I mean, that even is like not a level of couched or veiled intent at all.
Really?
But there wasn't even that level of disguise to anything. He was just like, I have time to kill. Come buy me a drink, basically. And we were like, no.
We know you have time to kill. There's a reason you're homeless.
Yeah, it was very clear because he was like missing half of his teeth.
Yeah.
Like, not like it wasn't. He had the two front teeth. But he had half of his two front, like he had the bottom half of his two front teeth.
Yeah, the parts that were
fucking.
He had the halves that were just still connected into his face.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
It would have been weirder if he'd had the top halves
just floating.
That they were like disembodied. He just had like ghost roots in his teeth, and you're like, what? What are you doing? How are you doing that with your teeth? This
is one of the benefits of being homeless, boy.
It's amazing. Conjure ghost teeth. Like,
homeless in Hawaii.
I stole these off of a ghost of a native Hawaiian. It's been dead 700 years.
I only had I only had the chomping parts of my teeth. I had to go. I went and dug up a ghost.
Why does he have a southern accent? I mean, he could.
I just like doing accents.
There are also a lot of rednecks in Hawaii, which was also
really?
not. Yeah,
so maybe I wasn't that far off.
There's a lot of people who at least appear to have some degree of Hawaiian heritage.
Yeah,
that are rednecks. Like there were people that were like. I was talking to that like all they talked about was working on their trucks.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, like
I kind of got that impression from something I saw recently. So that's actually cool you say that.
I mean, just people driving around in pickups, but like instead of like Confederate flags and like whatever, like they have the
that's
Hawaiian.
The weirdest place.
Well, they'll have the like native Hawaiian flag, like the OG Hawaiian flag from like the Hawaiian Kingdom in the 1770s.
Right.
But then they'll also have the Captain Cook British flag, but turned upside down.
Yeah.
So it's like the opposite of rednecks. They like working on their truck, but they hate oppression, but they still like country music also.
Right,
which doesn't make sense either.
No, definitely not. No, that's such a weird. I mean, that's just an ultimately weird combination. Like it kind of, as I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of associating it with like the nature vibe of like what rednecks get on a farm in the country. Well, you know, and everything. So I'm like, maybe I could see that in like amplified beauty, obviously, but like
I think the idea is like living, because a lot of it's, for being very tiny islands, it's very rural. Like people are kind of spread out. So I think that, you know, that cultural demographic is like, the appeal is like living sort of closer to the land and closer to nature, and in a kind of appealing to a simpler time.
Yeah.
And like a degree of independence and self-sufficiency, but also an appeal to what you perceive your heritage to
Yeah.
be, and so that might. I mean, all of those things are present in both like your southern rednecks and then your Hawaiian, whatever it. I don't even know that you can call it redneck culture, but it's like
but
your
for what it is.
yeah, your
Yeah.
native Hawaiian truck country culture. I guess your pseudo
Yeah.
Southerners, your South Island. I don't know.
Southern. We're the Southern Islanders.
It would be very weird if like the northern part of the island, everybody was like, had like a very different accent.
Oh yeah.
They had
We're
this
from the upper part of Hawaii.
they had
Why
had
does this
a war
apply down here?
I don't know.
That'd be
I don't
great.
know.
Oh, if they had a whole like mini war across the islands,
Yeah,
dude, that'd be fun. That'd be hilarious to go to Hawaii and you're still hearing, oh yeah, we've been up to the main states. No, okay, so it's pretty up there. It's not compared to home state.
I mean,
then you go to the north and like for no reason have Canadian accents.
I'd like the Canadian accents a lot. I think it would be very impressive because I feel like that there aren't any southern accents except for your white transplants, of which there are a ton of them.
Hell yeah.
'Cause they don't know like
Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
you have like old white ladies who are at trendy restaurants who are like, "What is jicama? What is jicama?" It's
I fucking love those people, dude.
yeah.
Like literally, my only like real experience with those kind of old white people has been working at Pancheros like years ago.
Oh yeah.
Having like the old white people who come in and legitimately say quesadilla, and
Oh no.
like they're too. It's like, are you doing it's and you can't figure out if they're doing it because they think it's funny or if they're just like
yeah.
not familiar with the word so much so written out that
It's
they
not
like,
even cute. Like
No, it's
you're,
not.
You're privileged enough. Like they clearly you have enough wealth that you could like
you've done
you
enough.
could
Yeah.
educate yourself to a point
Yeah.
where you're capable of handling this, but clearly you've made no effort. That's
No,
preposterous.
None at all. It is fucking preposterous.
It's
Dude.
very sad.
No, it is. I've even worked at like Perfect Games, which is like the bowling arcade laser tag place. It's like I would get like when I was like 17, and so I would get stuck in the laser tag area, and part of the vest was they had buttons on it. They've changed it since then because no one could figure out how it worked because people are fucking retarded.
Like where they're supposed
to censor.
Where they're supposed to so they couldn't figure out like the points that they were supposed to shoot in the vest.
I had countless adults, drunk or not, come out and then be like, have one hand just on the trigger of the gun and be like, it's not working. And then I had to be like, you gotta put your hand over the heat sensor, and then it'll fire because you have to use both hands. Because if you could just use, but then you have to just like give that to him,
you
'cause
can't walk in and Han Solo it
Yeah,
like
exactly.
one-handed rifle blast.
Yeah, you can't like hold. Yeah, you can't like use your free. You can't like use a free hand to like start to like fuck with someone else while you shoot them. You know, so they require you to have both hands on.
Kind
and
of a,
it's part of what you tell them about before they even go in. But
they aren't listening.
But they aren't listening. And
Right.
then while they're in there, you'll be like, all right, on the left side of the vest, there's a button that does this, and then they'll immediately go to the right side of the vest. And it's like because they're looking at me. And so I stopped doing anything with my hands to indicate which side because I just wanted to see what they would do. So I would just say left with no like reaction, but because they were looking at me, even though I didn't move, they would still go to the right side of their body.
People are basically astoundingly stupid but well-meaning. Like
Yeah.
mostly well-meaning, but yeah, it's pretty shameful.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that makes you see where people really are, and then you see all like the road rage out in the world, and you're like, I get it. You're just like an idiot trying to handle too much at once, like
Yeah.
and so it's making you act irrationally. Like it's,
Yeah.
it's
I
just
mean,
one of those things.
it's very easy to be angry at first,
Yeah,
but there's a point where you just kind of have to feel kind of pity for it.
oh
and
yeah,
compassion for it, or it's just funny. Like
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the case of the quesadilla ladies or jicama or whatever, where it's just like, oh, bless your heart, you have had
Jicama.
your
What
whole
is
life
your
to learn
jicama?
this. Yeah, just what are you doing?
yeah, exactly. I agree with you there, man. Yeah, that's like, and then you made a good point about like the wealth part. It's like you were smart enough that like you made the money to like get yourself to these places or like to be in the point you're in. So like you did well enough at a job like how like there's no way with the Hispanic workforce that we have in America that you never heard quesadilla said properly.
Yeah.
There's no way you're saying quesadilla without hearing, oh, it's supposed to be quesadilla.
Oh, yeah.
Quesadilla.
But I mean, then again, like you also have to consider that like the amount of money that anybody makes is almost never directly correlated to how smart they are. Almost never. Like it's basically boils down to either a position that they were born into and a certain degree of. I mean, there is a degree of privilege in just being, you know, a white lady or a white dude in a certain part and in a certain socioeconomic strata. Like, I mean, you know, if you're born into a fucking family of lawyers, the chances are you're not going to have a whole lot of problems financially in the future, and you'll be able to get into, you know,
you're going to be well versed because
that kind of
you're
stuff
be part of
perpetuates
it.
itself. And you could be dumb as a rock and still probably end up getting into into a law school, into the bar, getting, you know, and there's people who, you know, they become insurance agents or doctors or whatever, and it's just because they happen to be in a family that one person at one point put the effort in, but somewhere along the line, probably not.
Exactly.
You know?
Like the Lori Loughlin, I think is her name.
Same
that
situation.
Whole thing, like with her with her getting caught. I agreed with I was on the same page as the people who were like, didn't we know this was a thing like forever?
Right.
Like, but I think like maybe the difference being that I think the parts that we're okay with is when they go, well, they made a giant donation, or they got a new scoreboard, they put in a new field for this sports team or whatever. It's like I think maybe that's where we like they always give it a reason, or they give it somewhere like helpful for the money to go. And I think maybe this time they were like, I think maybe this time it was just like, it really had nothing to do with the fact that she was putting money in. It was like the fact that she did it. And she got caught doing it at the time we were in is really all it was.
Well, it's also it's astonishing that we decide to put like such a fine line on something that's clearly unethical anyway.
Yeah.
Like it. I mean, in a time where, you know, we have, I don't know, that kind of thing.
That's
where
not
it's like
to say
we
it was
can
right.
Yeah. No, I'm with you entirely, because it's like
yeah.
it isn't right. Like, you shouldn't be able to make a and we know what happens.
Yeah.
Like, you and I are not surprised at that, but we know people are making donations, and then suddenly, you know, or you have people who have been a Yale family for 5 generations, and their kid is dumb as a bag of freaking lead hammers, and they're still getting in, and they're going to get in, and if their parents make not even a donation for a wing, it's just their legacy families.
Exactly. They
like
to
that.
keep that lineage in there, because that says so much for the school. And then even if they are a fucking dimwit, they'll still like pass them by, so that way that doesn't scar the name, and then they can still make money off that family.
Yeah, it's just
so that's all it is.
It's all self-perpetuating, and it comes down to it being a club. So we're because of the fact that we draw this like arbitrary line of where we're like, well, if this person does this under this circumstances, even though it's the same thing, we're saying that this is an actual transgression of law, whereas everything else is just in an ethical gray space that we're all comfortable with. Nobody's comfortable with it.
No, exactly.
We're just pretending we're painting the veneer of a meritocracy on a system that we know is not in any way meritocratic whatsoever.
No,
it's the same thing with comedy. Like, if it's stupid, but by and large, I think there are some people with, you know, some things that, like, if you don't have a good relationship necessarily with certain people, there are some people that put things together that don't care one way or the other whether they like you or not, or they're friends with you or not. They just they're like, I just want to put together good comedy shows, or they care about, like, you know, they just purely respect good comedy. And some people, you know, there's still a degree of just like, well, I know them, and they're such a nice person.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And, you know,
and that takes you a lot of places.
Is it? Yeah. I mean, just being friendly. And it always will. That's the thing, is that isn't like some unwritten rule that needs to be undone. That's not a product of, like, you know, capitalism or whatnot. That's just, I mean, naturally people are social creatures, and having a better relationship with anybody, or at least the veneer of having a better relationship, is, you know, a sort of lubricant towards whatever else. That's what human beings are. Like, wolves are, if wolves had evolved into what we are, if people licked the right faces, you know, or if you know, whatever wolves called themselves ethnonymically, none of this makes sense. It doesn't matter.
No, man, no, it's all good.
The world's dumb.
No, it is. There's what I've realized is everything that you come back to, like, and no matter how complex people want to make an explanation out to sea, there it always comes back to I shouldn't say always, but there is very commonly a point where actually it could be a very simplified answer, but they don't want to admit it because then that would mean that it's not as, because then it's something in their head means that that's not as important as it was before when it was complex.
Right.
And
Or it signifies something to them that's scary or threatens something about a core belief
exactly
that they have.
Yeah.
And that's always a good, I think that's a really good indicator that you're actually about to fucking learn something. Like if you come to a realization and you're like, wow, that kind of spooks the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Like the concept of that, you're like, that scares me a little bit. Or you're able to at least recognize it and you're like, I don't think that. Exactly. Or like you're actually able to recognize that it challenges a belief that you have, and you're able to go with the rest of it and just be like, well, why does that challenge the belief? What's the belief that I have? What do I need to, like, is it something that's a reasonable belief, or is it something that maybe I need to have challenged? I don't know.
Right.
Always
exactly,
good.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that capacity for insight.
No, they don't. Yeah, no, that's very true.
Few.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. Because there's so many things that kind of that keep people from letting beliefs be challenged. There's whether it be family or your community, like the fear of being abandoned or kicked out of like the family that you know, and like it's just like
social factors.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so much there's so much tangled in with just wanting to be accepted. It's like all the actual for a lot of people, details go out the window.
As far as we're seeing that play out in the country right now, I think every single person that I mean, if you think you're the party of law and order and you voted for the person that is currently in presidential office and you know who they are and you know what they're doing, nobody's able to kid themselves.
Right.
Like he's doing highly unethical and illegal things.
Yeah.
And he's getting cleared of them now. He's gotten cleared of it just because it's like that boys club cleared him, you know, and because it's in the book of rules that people laid out several hundred years ago, everything's fine. And they're like, no, didn't do nothing wrong. I'm not you're not willing to confront or admit it because it would challenge the belief that maybe you got duped. And if you had to believe that you got duped, then you would have to admit that you were dupable. You would have to admit that you were gullible. You would have to admit that you were capable of being conned. And I think that a lot of the people who vote for anybody's capable of being conned, frankly.
Right, yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's the problem. Is like some people you can admit it. Some people can't, and not everybody is capable of being conned by something that's an obvious fucking con.
Yeah. That's
so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sometimes, if you're a little more observant than the average bear, then it's going to be a little more difficult for you. But definitely, by no doubt, everyone can be conned.
Well, yeah. I mean, if your whole belief system is these West Coast liberals think I'm so stupid, so elite. And then you would have to admit something and be like, all right, I did something stupid. And like, well, yeah, but, and also because of the fact that I think that, a lot of them do make a very good point that people who are, liberals, not progressives, and some progressives are real shitty to people who lack education or are rural or are, working class. And I mean, it's definitely not, necessarily, it's not like Hillary Clinton's fault or like the Democrats' fault that they lost the election, but it's also, there's a degree of fault there. You can't be a dick to a bunch of people and expect to win them over to your side. It's not going to happen.
No, definitely
anyway,
not.
Back to the whole socialization thing.
Yeah.
You have a good relationship, people are going to be like, maybe I can reevaluate my belief system.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah. It's like that's part of how I don't know, like. And Tommy Morgan, if you're listening, I do listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't care what you think. But no, he said people. It was literally a reference to one open mic where he said where Jeff Lynch was talking about the Joe Rogan, and then Tommy Morgan said if you listen to him, you're a creep or something. I don't know. But anyway, but I listened to him, and he had Daryl Davis on, who is he started like initially he was like he was a musician, but then. He has this whole story of like meeting Klan members and like at first, and he's this guy who's at this point has had over 200 people leave the Klan or denounce Nazism
Just
based
because
on,
he befriended them
Yeah.
as a black man.
Yeah, because as
Yeah.
a black man, he befriended them, and he showed that, and he
That's
showed them with
really
evidence and
challenging.
examples of like that challenge their beliefs. And it's like to believe that this guy could do this shit is fucking mind blowing. He's sat in with like some of the highest ranked people. He has robes from some of the highest ranked Klan members to leave that you can get in the whole thing, like literally like top guys. And then he even has robes where there's police uniforms inside because they were police officers that were on the Klan. And then eventually were outed, and so they had to be fired because too many people knew. The police precinct fucking knew beforehand. Yeah, the police precinct would typically know beforehand, but then would be like, "Don't bring any trouble onto us." But then eventually, one of the cross burnings in the yard, in a yard or something, will eventually bring on too much heat. They'll get caught. And then if they come clean about it, then they're definitely getting fired. But either way, they had to be kicked off the force. Either way, because it's so public, they have to be kicked off the force. And so then he literally has robes that he keeps where the uniform is inside the robes.
Yeah,
because to represent it, you know,
crazy.
It's fucking insane. And it's just because he's like then one of the fucking nicest, most like smartest fucking dudes, and he's a musician, and he's still making music, and he's just one of the most astounding dudes to hear talk, man. Like with the shit that he's been able to put himself through to make this happen, it's insane.
And that degree of kind of transcendent gentleness, and affableness that you would go and approach somebody that you know hates you, knowing that they're gonna hate you.
Yeah.
And going in with a full confidence of like, I can switch this guy's whole belief system around is very impressive. And that's
big time.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, it's not on oppressed people to change the minds of their oppressors.
No, definitely
but
not,
it is exceeding. It is like you're going way above and beyond. Like
Big time,
really by rights,
Yeah.
you could Killer Mike this and just start
Yeah.
shooting those guys. You would be well within your rights.
Exactly.
But kudos to you. Very impressive that you are going out and like telling people, hey, this is, I'm your friend and I want to be your friend. And just like,
patience.
It's amazing how that wins people over, where you just walk over and you're like somebody that thinks that you should hate them, and you treat them with respect and dignity and love, and they're like, oh, they don't, oh, I don't know what to do with this. Should I can't hit you now. I can't even really be mad. I don't know why it's that voice.
It's like a stunned Southern woman.
I can't even really be mad.
I don't know what to do with my hands right now.
Daryl, you've just disarmed the shit out of me. I am charmed. You've charmed the very pants off of me. Bless your little heart. You've charmed the very pants off of me. Bless my socks off.
That's so good. See, and and I've heard points made about it's like stereotypical to do that voice when you're talking about someone who's like, ignorant or bigoted or whatever. But it's like, there's so many. Or like they're the ones that are shown to us, and so it's like always it's so hard not to. But I get it at the same time. It's like there's definitely people like, well, butter me up, call me a biscuit, and then like they can fucking like tell you all about physics. Like it's just like that guy or girl is definitely out there, but they are not putting themselves out there more than likely. Like it's like the smartest people are typically the ones doing the best work that are maybe being shown to you, but they're not trying to be like, look at me.
Well, kiss my grits. A quasar is a collapsed supernova that's so dense, and it's got two prongs of radioactive energy that are spinning through space. It's got it on an axis. How about that? How does that snatch your wig?
Man, Dr. Umthun's really got some newfangled ideas going on here.
That's dangerously close to. John Reap has a really good bit that he does.
Actually, okay. So I'm sorry to cut you off as you say John Reap, because I know you just opened for him.
Yeah, because he was doing a bit like a lot like that, where like he talks about how you never expect somebody to walk in and go, "Welcome to Harvard," is how he opens the bit, but it's great. I mean, he's got a lot of material on his accent as a thing, but then talking with him, he's like, I have this podcast and I want to talk about, he's like he was talking to me afterwards. He was like, I don't like, I don't have friends in Hickory, North Carolina that are okay with me liking Star Wars as much as I do. So I don't get to talk about it that much, but I kind of wish I could, like, way more. And I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah. Right. Dude, because
I can closeted nerd. I can relate. I know exactly how you feel.
Closeted
nerd. I mean, at this point, I would say I'm pretty liberated.
Right.
I would say I'm very out. But I mean, yeah. I get experience.
I'm a nerd and I
like,
am proud.
well, I mean, you meet somebody for the first time, just like even now, like, you know, meeting people who are like in my day job, like meeting people who are marketers for like an annuity company from wherever. Like we had this. Jeez. We had a dinner out and like everybody's talking about football and I'm just talking to this guy who's from Ohio about like the different annuities he sells, and he was mentioned something and I made a reference to something and he's just like, "Oh, are you a gamer?" And then like he's like, "I take Raspberry Pis and I mod them to like I rebuild the interior cabinets of like old arcade games." And I put like giant, like multi-system arcades inside of the game cases, and then reproduce and retail them. Nice. And I was like, oh, like this guy's a total nerd. So it's like, you both of us felt like we had to like hide this aspect, but it's like if you're an adult man in your 30s, like in like the 2020s now, there's a very good chance that you grew up. Sure, you might like football. Maybe that's all you like, but good chance you like Dragon Ball Z's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
there's no reason to go on. People still do like golfing trips, and it's like, why are you doing? Nobody my age does that. You should have a Call of Duty tournament,
right? Yeah,
like people. Yeah, I mean,
for me, it's I would go Call of Duty, Super Smash.
Right? No, if you had a Smash Brothers tournament at like a giant business conference, guaranteed anybody under like I would say probably 42 would be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll throw my hat in. You know, like
exactly.
Everybody beyond that would be like, I don't understand this shit at all. But like everybody else would be like, no, I mean Jigglypuff, and I'm very good with it. You know?
Don't you test me, boy. You know?
Don't test me. Don't test me.
I'll roll up my goddamn sleeves and show you what I'm about.
Got the old Jigglypuff on lock.
Honestly,
though, like
you can master that fucking like sleep move.
If you can, there's. I mean, that would be an astonishing main.
Yeah.
I would say.
I
mean, really I fall back to Link still a lot.
Right. Yeah,
frequently.
I'm a Samus guy. You know.
Yeah. Well, because they're moves that are like, they're tried, they're true.
Yep.
If you know that like the back of your hand, it's the same way with like Tekken, like every version of Tekken, because I love fighting games, but like
they're great. Yeah.
With Tekken, like every single version of Tekken, like Heihachi generally has exactly the same moves.
Yeah, exactly.
King, I can't fuck with like the right way, but if you can figure King out, like but I think his combos kind of have changed from version to version a little bit.
Yeah,
but he's still like if you know King in Tekken and you can grapple somebody, you can toast somebody.
Exactly.
And it's impressive.
Exactly. It's one of those moves. It's and that's actually a big reason typically games will have to change their characters fighting things as they advance through the years, because a lot of times what happens is like you'll hear people talk about old games and there's there's always like a little thing where if you're this character and you do this, you win every time, or like you're like there's no way you can be beat, or like you have this advantage in some way. Like I think someone was just telling me about Street Fighter, and they said, or maybe I was hearing someone talk about Street Fighter, but the point was that there was like one of the characters, I can't remember who it was now, but he had like a kick move. I think it was Bert Kreischer, but they were talking about like they had a kick move, and it was like if you just kept using that, you could hit him like basically right as they were able to get up, and so you could keep knocking them down.
Oh, I wonder if it was Guy.
It might have been
from like Alpha 3, or it could have been, I don't know.
I can't remember.
So for Street Fighter, like Dan Hibiki, like not just because my name is Dan, but like the Dan Hibiki and the pink gi with the holy shit, I could do a Dan Hibiki cosplay. I just realized this because I have a ponytail now.
Perfect.
And he's a real shitbag, but I have a pink gi.
Real shitbag.
For years ago, Toll and I, we used to do a show every couple of years called Here Come the New Challengers.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, these are new comics that are like, they've got like a good solid 5 now, but they're not on anything quite yet. So here's like
that's where
a dozen people.
Yeah.
Like, where you just get like a dozen people. Like here's like a first fun show of like, but we would make it Street Fighter themed. And one year Toll and I hosted it, and I bought us both gis.
Yeah.
So he had like a Ryu gi with the sleeves cut off, and I had a pink Dan Hibiki, that was really funny, but I can do it now. I love it. But but legitimately though, like
man.
his like cross screen kick, like there's some moves that are legit with him. I like fast characters though.
Oh
like
yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you ever like Tekken, like Chow Yu.
It's been a while since I played Tekken. I'm gonna be honest.
Like the chick that does the thing where she does the it almost like the wushu style kung fu, where the short like little girl, like the teen.
Yeah, I think okay.
That,
I'm pretty sure.
So she like she'll do this thing where she gets ready. I think it's like butterfly stance or whatever. Like, but she'll like lean over and spread her arms out and like have one foot in front of her. Like, and she'll kind of move forward like that, and because it looks like, and I think there's a degree of theatrics in fighting games, like there probably is in real fighting, to where like the second you pick that, you wait like the third round, like after you've lost something, to pick that character, because then they're just like, that's what you're going with, seriously, the teenage girl, and then you just smoke somebody with it because you can because you know the combos
exactly,
and because they're faster, because like
those characters.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah.
Or Talum from Soul Calibur is another good example.
I kind of know who you're talking about, even though I've never played Soul Calibur. But yeah.
But Soul Calibur is different because like if you know a character inside and out, even if they're like not fast, if you know how to block correctly in that game, you can smoke somebody with like, you don't even need combos necessarily, you just need to know how to block.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, there is a lot to be said about just kind of like learning how to use a character next to you know, everything that it can do and everything. But yeah,
and it just takes a little while too, and that's the thing, is like now, like after a while, you just don't, as an adult, you just don't have the fucking time to like relearn something, because the amount of, that's the thing, is everything's fucking online now. So
yeah.
Like the way that you would like learn characters is it would just be like two people in a basement who are just like, no, just stay over there for a second, I'm gonna try, just stay over there, and I want to try something. And you just like fuck with it, and then they would run over and just waste you, and I was trying something,
right.
So it'd be like multiple rounds of just trial and error and stupidity until you actually got to a point where you could just like fucking bust out the Akuma like 10 hit combo where he blacks the screen out.
Oh dude, yeah, that special shit, that was the glory days of move combos being like something that made like special things happen.
Truly,
that was so fun. That was one of the best parts of video games.
Well, when special things were like really random, like Mortal Kombat now, every third move is just like there's a mini cutscene for it.
There is, yeah.
But like, yeah, there were like one or two moves in like OG like Street Fighter Alpha 3 or X-Men versus Street Fighter that were like insane. Sorry that we're talking so much about this.
No, you're fine, man. I don't think you have to talk about it all so much, so that helps,
I do love it.
Hell yeah, man.
I truly do.
Well, I would assume so, considering you started the Doomcast, which is I assume a good outlet to address all that stuff.
Everybody should check out Noobs and Pros and
Noobs and Pros.
Arsonist, capital R SYNIST, my buddy Brian Weber.
Nice.
That does a lot of gaming stuff in town and is really, really, really good at it, and streams a lot too.
Nice.
Worth a follow.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're into video games and that sort of thing,
for sure.
Yeah, man. So how long has the Doomcast been running now?
Oh God, since May of 20. So I think like the fourth episode or fifth episode I did was a review of Captain America: Civil War.
Nice.
So I think it was going since like March, or I'm gonna have to look at the exact date, but I want to say like March or April of like 2016.
Right on, man.
So this will be year 4 very shortly.
Hell yeah.
I think I'm gonna stop at 500 episodes no matter what.
Oh yeah.
Unless I'm like, no, I need to keep going. But it's weird because the elevator pitch of it is it's like Alton Brown on comics.
Okay.
It's not like Comics Explained, because I'm not just reading the fucking Wikipedia article of like one plot line.
Yeah. Like
I'm giving you the cliff notes and like the inside baseball of interesting aspects of it. Like I'm not, so it's not just like whereas Alton Brown is a cooking show where he's not like, we're just going to make a remoulade and like here's how he's going to be like, here's the origin of the remoulade in the 16th century in France, like is just going to be like, and there was a whole revolution and I don't even know what the origin of the remoulade is. I just know it's a French sauce.
You're putting your own spin on it.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like you're giving like the historiography and like some of the cultural background and just some color commentary on something that is otherwise fun. I enjoy it.
That sounds fun.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's a.
It
But,
is also a challenge. And also
Right,
this
yeah.
week I'm reviewing Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey.
A much better movie than it is getting credit for by any measure whatsoever.
Right. What is that? Is that a newer movie coming
Yeah,
out here?
it
Is
just
that
came
the,
out last week, and it's
nice.
so it's essentially a Harley Quinn solo film.
Oh,
but it
the
has,
Harley Quinn. That's what it was.
But yeah,
Okay,
it has.
okay.
But it
I
has
knew
like
I'd heard of it.
Black Canary and Renee Montoya and Cassie Kane, who becomes eventually a version of Batgirl in comics.
Nice.
I said Black Canary and Huntress,
Okay.
who's Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who was in Ramona in Scott Pilgrim, and
Oh,
is
really?
also is also a musician.
Hell
and,
yeah.
yeah.
That's a
a
good way to
handsome
get me to
woman.
watch. Yeah, the Scott Pilgrim reference.
Oh yeah, no,
Love
it's
that movie.
it's literally Ramona, and it's very weird seeing her. It's hard to like.
Not picture like my hair. I changed my hair every week and a half to get over it. Yeah.
But it's a good. I don't know. It is a good movie. It's a good like crime noir movie, and then it has an unnecessary big superhero like versus an army brawl that isn't necessary. But that's the only thing that I have a complaint about.
Right.
I don't understand. It's not getting checked out, and I think maybe it's because there is some degree of stigma for DC films.
Yeah.
As they're coming out, like people presume that they are bad when the majority of them are not. I mean, and what's astonishing is before the MCU existed, there were like 3 very good Richard Donner Superman films,
Yeah.
and 2 separate trilogies of
Oh, wow.
good Batman films. Right?
Oh,
There was the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
Nolan trilogy.
Yeah.
There was
that's
the
right,
there was
yeah.
the entire like there were the 2 Tim
That's a
Burton
good point,
movies,
yeah.
and then the first Joel Schumacher Batman movie was pretty good. Batman Forever was fine.
Oh yeah.
It was merely fine.
Yeah,
That's
that
all.
was definitely the one that gets talked about the most as being like the bad one, isn't
The
it?
beginning.
Forever?
Batman and Robin even more so.
Oh really?
For sure.
I could see that.
Batman
yeah.
Forever wasn't like it was preposterous and it was ridiculous, and I think Joel Schumacher liked the idea of making Batman weird and flamboyant like he was in the like 1960s TV show.
Right. I
Which
could
then
see
again,
that,
yeah, DC had freaking multiple TV shows before. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's not a competition.
No, right?
You know, it's
it's
not.
a competition. Not a competition.
Just do good stuff. Like
Yeah,
don't put out a Green Lantern or a Batman versus Superman. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Like really
And
vet your
they-
shit and
yeah.
be true to the source material, and people will enjoy it. But also make fewer superhero movies. I'm saying that
Yeah.
as a nerd, make fewer.
Right. Well,
You
then
could
because
stop.
that makes the ones that do come out they're gonna be more thought out, probably way better,
Right.
more like, and then all the anticipation, it
Just-
definitely keeps you involved,
One X-Men movie every 3 years.
Right.
And that there don't need to be 4 or 5 or 6 every year, because after a while you water that shit down to a point where people are just like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, too much exposure to something is gonna get you over it. Like real,
Not
like, real
everything
quick,
can be
you
an
know?
event.
And even if it's something you love, you still have to like
Right.
switch it up sometimes, to to keep it fresh. Yeah, I can't just keep yourself into it and everything. That's one of the big things about all the new material with stand up. Trying as Lefty is trying all the new shit out. Just add new things onto it. And,
Oh, man,
all
yeah.
that, so it's
I mean,
it's a lot of fun. Something important?
no, my wife just messaged me a picture of a possum sitting in our a tree in our backyard.
Oh,
That is
really?
insane.
Oh well, you guys. So I guess you're gonna have a new pet possum upon arrival.
What the hell? That's crazy.
That's
don't know.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Possums.
too bad.
I
don't know.
Text back. Too bad.
Well, what other questions did you have?
Well,
for me?
I just kind of have I just have talking points. Really. Yeah.
Those are fun.
You're starting comedy. Like how long you've been doing it.
Oh
like,
god,
and
12
then,
years. I started in
12 years, really.
October of 2007.
Really.
And I did a comedy contest before I did with my friend Ben Hauk was setting up comedy shows through the union at ISU.
Yeah.
In the student union, the basement, the M
Nice.
shop, if you're familiar. And
Yeah,
it was
a little bit.
was doing small comedy shows and stuff like that, but he was also doing big ones and bringing in like, people from, because he was working for the student activity board or whatever, and was like they had a budget, and his friend like basically ran the budget part of things.
Yeah.
And he was just like, here, let's get this person and that person. And he knew me, and he was like, well, we have Greg Altoff, who's excellent, who's from Des Moines and is still doing comedy. Not in Des Moines. He lives in Dubuque now. But he went and did an hour there and was amazing. And it was literally the second time I'd performed comedy, and Ben was like, I need you to do like half an hour. And I was like, sure, that could be no problem.
Right.
It was a lot of a problem. It was a lot of a problem. I fucking held my own for 20 minutes, and Greg Altoff was way too fucking nice to me about it too. He was like, you're fine. You're good. Doing good. Good job. Like real nice.
Really giving you a leg up on it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. That's a 30 minutes. And you're just completely unprepared for it.
No, you're always unprepared for. I think, like, but that's also the thing is like if you, but you don't know what you're not ready for until you do something you're not ready for. The thing is, doing something you're not ready for and doing something that you probably shouldn't yet do in comedy isn't a problem. There's no sin at all. Like you can't do something wrong. You can only do it more right. Just like not learning to do it more right is the thing that like you're screwing yourself over and maybe some people, but it's not like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I feel you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Very true. Yeah, exactly.
You gotta learn what your limits are to know what to know how to push past your limits.
Exactly. Yeah. Was that your first show? The first time you?
That was the first real show, and it was
But hey, you'd done open mics before that.
There was so at that point in 2007, there was one open mic at Billy Joe's Pitcher Show.
Yeah.
That happened once every. It had just become a once every 2 week thing.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was only one mic every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah, and before that, like several months before that, it was once a month. And the guy that ran that had run it for a long time. He had just started running. Well, Greg had just started hosting it, but Louis Bissett really, like I think like 2003, like he really set up the first real mic in town.
Yeah, nice.
So people, I mean, everything else is built off of that,
right?
Truthfully, like it really has been, and it's just like, but also Lewis, built off of Ben Hewlin and Willie and Chuck Dunlap and people like that who are doing stuff at Dwayne Clark over at Spaghetti Works in the early '80s.
Yeah.
Dave Stuck and Karen Swanson and
nice.
So there's been like a permutation of this is, I don't know, this is like the sixth. It's almost like different reboots of like the Marvel universe. There's multiple distinct comedy scenes through the ages.
Yeah,
they're like just different lineups of and people come and go.
Yeah, definitely.
So the only thing, like, just develop as much as you can. Like there's nothing else to worry about other than getting as good at comedy as you can and knowing how to appraise how good you are at comedy, and then finding a way to market it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's in that order. So like just working hard to get there, you will eventually discover how to appraise how good you are. And if you always think you're awesome, you are wrong. That's the easiest thing. If you always think you're garbage, you're also probably wrong, but you're less frequently wrong. Sometimes
you try harder. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, you'll push yourself at least. I mean, but you don't have to be self-hating.
No, you don't.
That's something that's easy to do.
No, I agree with you there, big time. What was so then we got that, and then actually, who are your inspirations in comedy? Who are you watching where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go do comedy?
Probably the really oldest ones are probably George Carlin, but like, when I heard like Patton Oswalt and Brian Posehn,
I love them,
and Blaine Capatch.
I don't know him.
Blaine Capatch, it like came up in that same set, but didn't get like famous, but like has been like the realest of real dudes for 35 years. Like he hosted I think he hosted Beat the Geeks for a while on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
But his like the way that guy writes jokes are brilliant. He's not like Emo Phillips, but he I mean, he writes stuff that sometimes is like a quick witticism, but it's not purely one-linery. But it's in the same kind of like flowery geek like style that Posehn and Patton both have, where it's that like not like Dennis Miller reference laden, but where there's just an eccentricity to the way they put sentences together and a wordiness that, like, if you're following it, and Derek Sheen kind of is in that vein also. Although I just got to know him a few years ago.
Nice.
But I really like that style. I like this. I like a verbosity. I like people that paint pictures with words, like rather than just like, because your duty on stage, and I very much believe in this philosophically speaking in terms of comedy, your job is to surprise people and make them happy. And it's not like you can say something that pisses somebody off, but that's not your job.
Right. Yeah.
Like so like there's a degree to which like there's a lot of people that are huge Stanhope fans that like I think they hear him doing, and Louis to a degree when Louis was not like, you know, rightfully a pariah, you know, saying stuff that's transgressive, getting the wrong idea that like I need to say like how can I be edgy, and I'm like it doesn't matter if you have an edge if it's not funny.
Yeah.
Like if it's not actually something new and that's surprising. So yeah,
exactly.
just have fun.
No, yeah, I agree with that big time.
And make sure people are having fun watching you, and have fun doing what you're doing, because otherwise it's not. Like if you're not having fun, it's very obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot that comes with being able to sell yourself on stage, you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is constantly sort of marketing yourself in a way to people. And yeah, it's also that is a challenge, especially when you're, you know, there's a degree of anxiety with it always. So how do you market something that you're not 100% confident in when you're not 100% confident? Gosh. It's astonishing.
Yeah, pretending to be real confident about something and then it doesn't hit is like it almost makes you feel foolish, because now you're like in front of it. It's like now you're in front of people, and then you have to continue on with it. You can't just be like, nah, I'm just I wasn't serious about it either. You know,
the bigger and wackier and more fun you can make it, the more fun it is.
Yeah,
the better it
exactly.
translates. I think.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree. How did you get involved doing the Micah Lefties and become a host?
So you remember how I was saying that like back in 2007 there was like one mic every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. So my friends Ben Hauk and Jim Ramsey and JT Nutt and I we talked to House of Bricks and JC Wilson over there in 2008. And we're like, what if we did a mic on Tuesdays every 2 weeks, and started doing a mic every Tuesday or every other Tuesday for a while there. And Jim settled on the name Underground Comedy.
Okay.
And so Underground Comedy at the Bricks specifically, which has a ring to it.
Right. Yeah.
But I felt like Underground Comedy was pretty generic, but it is what it became known as. And it just kind of stuck. And then Jim moved to Georgia and Ben and JT quit hosting. And so there was a while where I was hosting it on my own and started making, just for the not knowing what I was doing, but just learning what I was doing, just making posters for it, and created like a little logo that was who Hunter S. Thompson is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So the Gonzo fist that has a thumb on both sides, a six-fingered hand that's holding a peyote bulb.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look, I basically drew something similar, but instead it's holding a microphone in the center of it, and use that as a logo. Yeah. We have the backdrop that we'll put up sometimes, but I need to get a tiny like MacBook or just like simple computer that I can hook up to HDMI and just display a picture instead of just to give it a little more produced
I get that
feel to it. But we did that for a long time until House of Bricks closed, and we're producing shows once a month there. So I was doing that, and then I made the decision to move it over here. First piecemeal, so we were switching back and forth between here and what House of Bricks became. Yeah. And then by like late 2016, we were just here full time. Right. And have been since. And that it's now 11 years on in doing consistently an open mic like this, doing underground comedy almost every Tuesdays for a little more than a decade.
Hell yeah,
which
dude.
is crazy.
That is.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. Yeah.
It's after a while. Like, there's not a. There's a few people I know of. Like one person who's hosted a mic in Denver for I think 15 years, and there's somebody
Wow.
else that's hosted the same mic in I want to say Portland for 20. And so
That's a lot,
I'm
yeah.
like, in terms of like, I'm nearing like a legendary status
Right.
of like,
yeah.
once if I can make it to 15,
Dude,
then
no kidding.
you're at like, that's about like the longest. I don't know that I wanted to get to like a Guinness Book of World Records level.
Longest,
That would be
longest open mic host of all time.
yeah.
That'd be
It
insane.
would be grueling because there's some people who start. It's not fun. It's not. Sometimes it's not. It is. It has become fun. There's sometimes it's horribly unfun, and there's sometimes where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's astonishing.
I believe
Like how much of a grind it is, and then there's sometimes when it's absolutely fantastic and lots of fun. But
Yeah.
it's like it's somewhat. There's a degree to which it's thankless, but not thankless. There's a degree to which it's like there's not a lot of glory in it because you're going up first and you're falling in like the coldest crowd, and you're doing whatever. Like, so if you're hosting frequently, you're not always able to try out new material to people who like are necessarily the most receptive.
Yeah.
But in that respect, it also forces you to build yourself to become a better comic.
True.
Because if you have to go first every time, you have to figure out how to make things work
Yep.
right away and set
Exactly,
energy, and that's a skill. That
Oh, yeah.
certainly is. So
Opening
and I'm
it.
not trying to be like I am incredible at comedy is what I'm saying, but I'm not like good, but I don't want
Right,
to be
yeah.
like I guess what I'm saying is like there's there's things to learn from everybody. I'm not trying to pretend that I like know all of it, but
No,
yeah,
yeah.
it's sorry, yeah, it's I've
don't
been doing
apologize.
this for quite a while.
No, big
Basically,
time,
I mean when we didn't have, I mean this was the first real weekly mic, the first monthly showcase, and was consistently monthly for a very long time. Only recently has it not been, but because there's so much happening and there's
Yeah.
so much great stuff happening. So,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's not essential to have as much happening necessarily. Not that there isn't room for it, but it's just also
Oh yeah. Big
it is
time,
quite a
yeah.
bit of work. So
Oh yeah.
I feel like 10 years of independent shows is also probably a pretty damn good run that I can feel good about.
Yeah. Exactly, dude.
And
Yeah,
6 years of comedy festival, which is also
Damn. Yeah. No, dude. Yeah.
that's exhausting.
It sounds
That
exhausting.
part-
That's
that part is.
That's I can only imagine. Yeah, like it. It's one of those things where at least at the end of the day you could be like, well, I got a lot. Yeah, you have a lot of experience. at how to handle shit. But then,
Yes.
years of but yeah, I can only but yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it. You're playing to all kinds of
Oh,
different
yeah.
tunes. So yeah, that's it. But yeah, good on you. And actually with the John and like. A girl I work, a lady I work with, I should say, a lady I work with. Her name's Maddie. She's real cool. She was at the John Reap show when you opened for.
Oh, wild.
For him, and she said you did fantastic.
Oh, awesome.
She
What a lot of fun.
she said she really loved it, and so I was like, yeah, I wish I could have gone, but I had something going on. I don't remember.
Oh
what it
man,
was.
yeah. It's. I mean, that's the thing is nobody needs to feel bad about missing. Like with stuff like this, I feel like there are a lot of people.
But
that,
also, I
like-
do like John Reap. So
Oh, yeah.
So you guys both, I was like, well, that'd be a good show to go to.
But there's always like, fortunately there will always be others.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
In conceivably, unless there aren't, and we all die in nuclear fire. But yeah, I mean
there is
it's
a likelihood.
I mean greater than there was
Right. Yeah.
several months ago,
Mm-hmm.
or even years ago. God, I long for that
Yeah. Exactly.
time.
Oh yeah, to reminisce. Yeah, that old feeling of nostalgia. That's
Yes.
where country music would come in.
Yep,
Yeah, so it's very
bringing
nostalgic,
it full
yeah.
circle,
Yeah, exactly.
right back.
Yeah, or I say callback. Yeah, no,
It
it's,
is. We did it
yeah, no,
We
exactly.
called back.
Wait, fuck it.
to the future.
I can die happy now.
We did it.
I needed you here to be able to be able to get to make it official. If it would have just been me, then I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, if there's no witnesses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It feels too scripted. It's like
Right.
it's like I planned it, but it works out. But
Yeah.
yeah. And then Let's see what else I got here. Da-da-da. Oh yeah, and then where did you actually get the idea to start the Doomcast?
Oh, my buddy Kurt Porter and Kyle Porter, who were running the Capes Cafe over at Social Club. When Social Club was a thing, when
Okay.
Capes Cafe was a thing,
Right on.
in there, it was a comic book store and coffee shop
Oh,
inside
nice.
of
Hell yeah.
the Social Club.
Name makes sense now.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was a good idea, better idea, and it was deserved a lot more and a lot better. And
I
Kurt
agree.
was like, "Hey, I'll tell you what. Think about doing a podcast or with us." And I was like, I don't know if I have the patience to do a podcast. And I was like, well, I'll do a 5-minute video instead, which is more work in some ways,
Right. Yeah.
less in others, but it's still work. And I was like, well, I could try and do this, because I was kind of like inspired both by like Good Eats and Radio Lab. And I was like, what if I did something that was a blend of both, but like to whatever degree in webcast form, but about one of my primary interests, and then I
Right,
made
yeah.
it funny.
Yeah, definitely, man.
And that's it. And then I feel like I've kind of got, if I could figure out attendance, I've kind of got live shows down to where I want them to be for the most part, technically, provided everything works.
Right.
In terms of, building, multiple video-based sketches, and then, corresponding, people in character and stuff like that. And I enjoy doing that, where it's sort of like more variety than strictly stand-up.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's
No, it's
also a lot of fun.
fantastic. Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you did the live one here where everyone was dressed up as the X-Men characters, and
Oh, yeah.
Matt Jackson as Professor X, and then Dave Kilbride was Beast, and
I wish I could have done
Yeah.
a Magneto costume.
that would have
would've
been fantastic.
Dope.
Hell yeah, that would have been really cool. Well, you got it on the back burner for the
Right.
future, so that's,
Still be
that always
done.
helps, exactly. And then the live show aspect is is
Fun.
really great. That's something that I would like to do with this sometime. Is do like a live show. Where it's like
some
in
work,
front of
but
an
you could do
audience.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean, it's
definitely
just
work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I want
the
to
thing
build
to remember.
I want to build an audience, and then get to that point where it's like I know like it would be like an okay turnout, and then like it'd be like the first, and so at least for the first time being like a new thing, people would probably want to check it out.
Yeah.
So I think so that's something I would want to do myself. So that's it. That is a really cool thing. And yeah, do you do those? Do you try to do those around other places? Is it mostly been here?
I've done 2 live shows here. I did one at Capes once, and then I've done a couple of live shows at local Comic-Cons too, which worked out okay.
Right.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, multimedia trivia and like
Seems like an ideal
games
place to
like
do
that
it.
are a lot of those like making things like into a game show. That's a lot of fun. I feel
Yeah,
like
definitely.
it's excellent.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Exactly. No, definitely. There was I actually had an idea, because I had seen a thing. I had seen a thing where it didn't. It happened last year, so I want to find out if that. I just want to know if they're gonna do the roast battle again. Because I know that like it was like a pit. It was like an old flyer I just happened to come across while looking people up, and it was Toll and Alex like next to each other with like their heads like photoshopped on the boxers' bodies, and it was for a roast battle thing. I'm like,
yeah.
I would like for that'd be cool if they didn't, if there was another roast battle thing.
Well, the thing about I feel like it's weird to if you're gonna set up roast battles, like making 2 people who are friends with each other roast each other don't do that. pick 2 random, like first of all, you would have to know people who write good roast jokes or
Right.
write frequently.
Yep.
So you can really only put people on that are going to write stuff for it successfully, and
Yep.
that's harder. I mean, I don't know. I put a
I
couple
agree,
roasts and roast battles together, and they are very difficult to like curate, because you have to find people who are actually going to do the work for it. Because if nobody does the work, then you've got like a bunch of, there's nothing to it. But then you've got a couple people who are like, standouts or very quick on their feet and are just good without any material.
Yeah.
Which is highly unusual. So
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you gotta. I mean, I don't know.
I could see that for sure. It'd have to be something that like, yeah, I could definitely see it being something that you have to be sort of almost a little picky with who all gets involved, or at least like make it a real free for all at the beginning, only to
Yes.
get the best ones out at the out through that. So that's yeah, I could definitely see that being a challenge to go on. To get going, yeah.
It is a challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
For
I
sure.
do like I do like roast stuff though. So I'm a little
Yeah.
So I think so.
Well, it's just like it's like
something
any
to-
form of comedy that is not just like a long form, you know, diatribe or rant. Like anytime you've got yourself constrained to a specific form and you're very good at that very specific form, it's like sorcery.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
awesome to watch.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah, and that's it. And you do make a good point about people not being like the best at like roast joke writing.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is like not only do we have people that have been writing for very long, but they also like probably aren't writing roast jokes. I've written a
Yes.
few because it's like something I want to be good at or something I want to practice.
Yeah.
Like I don't I'm not worried about other comedians like getting offended because I'm like you know what this is. You know, it's like this is kind of part of it, but also I'm not gonna say things. But also like I know that like there are people who like would get offended. I'm not like there's people like there's people where I'd be like they probably can't handle it, and then there's people where I'm like they know what the game is. You know? It's kind of
Yes.
like, but it's like so you got to be a little selective, but for the most part, like especially if it's a vet comedian, you know they're gonna be fine. Like they're
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna write, I mean, like there is an art to writing roast jokes to where, you know, the aim is to say something that is uncomfortably true,
Yeah.
rather than something that is uncomfortably true
Or at
that
least something
people
they
are
can see.
ignoring.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because especially if it's a roast battle where, you know, there's a bunch of people that don't know the people on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about something that happened 2 years ago that you know personally, no one gives a shit. That's not funny to anybody. But specifically talking about the way somebody is dressed, or their mannerisms, or their behavior, or how or they look like somebody who is X, or they like if they resemble this, you know, but without just being like, you look like a big fat piece of shit. Like that's dumb.
Yeah,
Like
it
if
is,
you're
yeah.
especially if you're roasting somebody who is like a big person and you're
Yeah.
just making fat jokes, you are you are a waste.
You're not trying.
What
yeah.
are you doing at all? Like you can make like there's
Mix
you can
it
make
up,
a joke
yeah.
that is essentially a fat joke that is clever, but that's like, I mean, like make some sort of comparison. Just like it's not like I don't know.
Right.
Just there's
Yeah, I
it's
get you,
very
yeah.
hard to explain.
No, I totally understand. Yeah, there's like a laziness in it when it's like because that's the same matter of like for why vet comics are like most likely used to it all. It's just because like if it's something that is true about them or something that they have, whether it be a mustache or like being overweight, it's more than likely they've thought of a lot of jokes about it themselves. And like if they do comedy enough, they're gonna hear other people say stuff, and then they're gonna hear it all over a long period of time.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, it's not like you writing a joke about something like that versus writing a roast joke where you're just like, you're afraid of failure and you're emotionally not stable, like where you're like, actually, like that's not even a joke, and it's also like this is definitely uncomfortable, but nobody's
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Like
wait,
this-
I mean, it
your
doesn't matter if
parents
you hit
laughed.
the target, like really, yeah, just like you,
Whoops,
like, you know, whatever.
Kiki.
That's not a pleasant experience at all.
No,
it doesn't make
definitely
anyone
not.
happy.
No.
I don't know.
Mm-mm.
Well,
Yeah.
any other thoughts?
Well, what just just the only other things I have on here. I was gonna ask who your like if you have like favorite superheroes, favorite comics. You
gosh.
know, like you're like you know if like when you start thinking about that
Yeah.
kind of shit, like what are the first like maybe couple of heroes or series that come into mind, and then
Well-
after that, just what you got going on.
Anymore, so growing up, favorites were people like Green Lantern, Hawkman. On the Marvel side, you know, I wasn't as big into Marvel when I was much younger.
Mhm.
But eventually, you know, the X-Men broadly, but
Yeah.
specifically Gambit, Beast, and Nightcrawler above all
yeah.
for the X-Men.
Oh yeah, Nightcrawler was
In a
fantastic.
big
Was a
way.
big one that got me involved in it.
Yeah, Apocalypse as a villain, big old fan there. But yeah, I mean, like now Thor, Doctor Strange are big ones for me.
Oh yeah,
But I mostly Martian Manhunter on the DC side.
yeah.
But I mostly now
Love them in the
follow.
Justice League. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I follow a lot of writers
Oh yeah.
rather than, I mean, like there are a lot of artists that I like, but I don't necessarily pick up books that comic artists I like are on so much as I will pick up anything that, like, if Donny Cates or Brian Michael Bendis or Greg Pak or like Kelly Thompson are writing something, like I'll pick up something that they're writing.
Yeah.
John Hickman is also another person that like I'll pick up anything they're writing. Grant Morrison, I'll pick up anything they're writing. It doesn't matter if I don't like the character or not. Mark Russell's another good example. Like he wrote a Wonder Twins book that was like astonishingly good. It was both funny, but it was also like biting satire, but it was also a good like comic set in the DC universe.
Yeah, definitely.
But
oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's honestly a really good way to go about it. Is the writer.
Once you know people who are very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that says a lot, man. You know, it's
low key.
You're into the writers.
Well, low key on the Marvel side, they always put their best current writer artist combo or the next big thing writer artist combo on Daredevil. Almost always. So if you're picking up one Marvel series that's going to consistently always be good and have the best writers and artists on it, it's probably going to be Daredevil, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But historically, they always put giants on it. Spider-Man, usually they have longer runs by people who are really tried and true.
Right.
And then on the DC side, Batman, they generally have their top talent on either a Batman book or Superman.
Nice.
More often than not.
Definitely,
but
yeah.
Just the same. I don't know.
Those are good things and those are good things to know when you kind of look at a story as a whole. Look at the buildup of lately. I mean, knowing that about them now, I'm definitely gonna kind of think I'm gonna look at it a little differently, checking them out and see if I can kind of notice that sort of difference. But yeah, no, that's actually a really fun fact to know. I think.
Yeah, it is. It's worth. I mean, it's definitely worth one even picking up consistently.
Right.
Which is stupid because I forgot until recently that I wasn't picking Daredevil up, and it was since the beginning of Chip Zdarsky's run, who's a guy from Chicago, who is a great comic artist. But an incredible writer, a very funny and clever and biting writer. His style is less serious and a lot more goofy, but when he gets serious, he gets very good.
Oh yeah.
But he's also low-key been a stand-up comedy groupie in Chicago for 20 years. Yeah. And so legitimately really cool guy. I've met him at cons, but not met him to where I don't know him.
Oh yeah.
But
you've had
people in Chicago, there are people in Chicago that know him.
Oh nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. That's what's up. Yeah. No, definitely keep doing that sort of thing, man. It's really cool. I think it's a lot of fun. It's one of those fun ways where if you're kind of want to know a little more about it, you don't know where to go. At least you can kind of jump in with it that fun webcast. So, man, what you got going on right now? You got anything? Any shows coming
I have
I have
the next weekend. So I'm doing C2E2 towards the end of the month. So I'm not doing Flood of Water, which is a bummer for me because I like Dan and Mike a lot.
Definitely, yeah.
But I'm at the Funny Bone in the weekend of March 12th and the weekend of March 26th. Hooray!
Right on, man. That's awesome. And then the Doomcast. Find that on YouTube
once a week.
Oh yeah.
Find it YouTube. It's or on Facebook. It's at the Doomcast. YouTube is also just search the Doomcast.
Awesome. Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you very much for being part of the podcast here. Thanks for making the time. Sorry I got here a little late.
No, you're okay.
But I really appreciate your time, man. So yeah, check out the Doomcast. And then see Dan at the open mics on Tuesdays hosting, unless he's got other things going on.
Awesome.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and follow us online as well. That They Came From the Underground or TCFTU Podcast on Twitter because the name is too long for them. And then we'll catch you next time. Thank you and goodbye.
Nowadays my life is great. Sub the love out for the hate. I'm booked to shows in different states. One thing I don't test is fate, cause that's some shit you can't escape. Got a lot up on my plate and learn that most these streets are fake. Now I'ma go get it. I'm vivid and intricate, killing shit, feeling this militant. Know that they feeling it. Been on my krillin' shit. I'm just too diligent. I'ma go in again. Don't fuck with a nuisance. I'm stupid. Nah, please don't do it. I'm sipping on this fluid. It's vodka and some sewage. I'm brutal. I cause contusions. I'm doomed in my dreams. Lucid, consumed by the fear of losing. My moons are just illusions. Let's go. I dabble in the darkness, don't want me to spark it. Magician needs assistance to witness to all this carnage. Bar after bar, I'm by far the hardest. Scar, son of Mars, the god of words, a tyrant. Yeah, bitch.